The day my parents told me to leave, the sky was a brilliant, unforgiving blue. I was 18, just a few weeks shy of graduation. My sister, Clara, stood behind them, a smug little smile playing on her lips. It was because of her. She'd always hated me, for reasons I never understood. Maybe it was jealousy, maybe it was just her nature. She'd told my parents she couldn't live in the same house as me anymore. That my presence gave her anxiety, that she felt suffocated, and they chose her. They always chose her. My dad couldn't even look at me. He just stared at the floor, mumbling something about it being for the best, about giving Clara some space. My mom handed me a small envelope with a few $100s in it. "This should help you get started," she said, her voice clinical, like she was talking to a stranger. There were no tears, no hugs, just a cold, final dismissal. I packed a single bag, filled with my most precious belongings, a few books, some clothes, and a worn photograph of my grandmother. As I walked out the door, I didn't look back. I couldn't. The betrayal was a physical weight in my chest. The first few weeks were a blur of desperation. I slept on a friend's couch, then in my beat-up car. I worked to dead-end jobs, washing dishes and stocking shelves, just to afford a tiny room in a shared apartment. Every night, I'd lie awake, the injustice burning in my gut. They had a 3-bedroom house, a comfortable life, and they'd thrown me out like yesterday's trash to appease their precious daughter. That anger became my fuel. I vowed that day, I would never need them again. I would build a life so successful, so happy, that my absence would be a gaping hole in their perfect little family portrait. I enrolled in community college, taking night classes after my exhausting shifts. I studied computer science, a field that felt like a secret language I was determined to master. It was grueling. There were times I lived on instant noodles for a week straight, times I almost gave up, overwhelmed by loneliness and exhaustion. But then I'd remember Clara's triumphant smile, my parents' cold shoulders, and I'd push harder. I transferred to a state university on a scholarship, graduating with honors. I poured every ounce of my being into my work, driven by a need to prove them wrong, to prove to myself that I was worthy. Years passed. I landed an internship at a small tech startup, which eventually led to a full-time position. I was good at what I did. I worked my way up, project by project, promotion by promotion. The little money I saved grew into a down payment for a small condo. I built a new family for myself, a circle of supportive friends who celebrated my wins and held me up during my lows. I traveled, I learned to cook, I found joy in the simple things. The sharp edges of my anger began to soften, replaced by a quiet, steely confidence. I was happy, genuinely happy, without them. Then, 6 years after that fateful day, my phone rang. It was an unknown number, but something told me to answer. It was my mother. Her voice was hesitant, laced with a false warmth that made my skin crawl. She told me Clara was getting married. They were having a big, extravagant wedding and they wanted me to be there. "It's time to let bygones be bygones," she said cheerfully. "We're family, after all." I was silent for a long moment, the audacity of her request washing over me. Family. Where was this family when I was sleeping in my car? Where were they when I was crying myself to sleep in a dingy apartment, starving and alone? She went on, describing the fancy venue and the expensive dress, the perfect life they had curated for their perfect daughter. And then came the real reason for the call. It turned out, the groom's family was very wealthy and very traditional. They were all about family values. My parents were desperate to present a united front, to show off their 2 successful children. My absence would be an embarrassment, a question mark on their otherwise flawless image. Suddenly, my presence wasn't a source of anxiety for Clara. It was a social necessity. And then, my mother dropped the bombshell. "We were also hoping you could help out a little," she said, her voice dropping to a conspiratorial whisper. "Weddings are so expensive, and you're doing so well for yourself. We thought, as a wedding gift to your sister." I almost laughed. It was so perfectly, predictably them. They didn't want me. They wanted my success. They wanted my money. They wanted to use me as a prop in their perfect family play. For a moment, the old anger flared. I wanted to scream, to list every single night I went hungry, every tear I shed because of them. But then, I looked around my beautiful apartment, at the life I had built with my own 2 hands, brick by painful brick. I looked at the photos on my wall of my friends, of my travels, of a life filled with love and real connection, and I felt nothing but pity for them. Their love was conditional, their family a performance. I took a deep breath, my voice calm and steady when I finally spoke. "No," I said. It was a simple word, but it held the weight of 6 years of struggle and triumph. I will not be attending. And I will not be giving you any money. There was a stunned silence on the other end. My mother started to sputter, a mix of disbelief and indignation. But we're your family. How can you be so selfish? After everything we've done for you, everything you've done for me. I replied, a genuine, mirthless laugh finally escaping me. You kicked me out. You abandoned me. I built my life without you, and I will continue to live it without you. My gift to Clara is the same one you gave me 6 years ago, my absence. I hope she enjoys it as much as I have. Before she could respond, I hung up. I blocked her number, then my dad's, then Clara's. It wasn't about revenge anymore. It was about self-preservation. It was about choosing myself, just as they had chosen my sister. I walked over to my window and looked out at the city lights, my city. The sky was dark, dotted with stars, each one a distant, burning sun. And for the first time, I felt completely and utterly free. My past was a closed chapter, and my future was a blank page, waiting for me to write my own story. And I knew, with absolute certainty, it was going to be a beautiful one. Thanks for listening, and if you enjoyed this story, make sure to like and subscribe for more.